Hello.
Hello. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, perfect.
Did you see those pictures of you in the
Yeah, I feel like I never have been like so beautiful in a picture.
they took really good pictures.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey.
Hey,
Hello.
hello. The talkative group this morning or afternoon. I guess it's been a long day for you guys or what? Okay. All right, we'll wait a sec and I'll link the notes again. We'll get started in a sec. All right. Looks like not having the scheduled reminders and the time difference may have had some impact. Or the presentations went that poorly, one of the two.
Oh, most of them are on vacation probably because it's a long weekend, right? For
Yeah,
Europe.
maybe that could be it. Who knows? Lots of good theories out there. All right. Hey, David. All right. I guess we can probably get started. I just linked the notes again. If anyone has anything to add, please feel free. And then go ahead and just add yourself to.
Okay,
And
not that many people today, and there were quite a few of us at KubeCon. So I'll go through this quickly. Thanks. I think I don't know if Mike or somebody else added the additional links. So there's some links from KubeCon. You can actually watch some of the videos online now on YouTube. If you're interested in that, definitely suggest. I guess I'll back up. KubeCon was pretty successful, I would say. So I would probably say it was our best one ever. A lot of interest at the booth. I mean, it came in burst. We made the choice to not have the booth full time, which I think was the right choice in retrospect. Um, but yeah, a lot of interest at the booth, especially the last day, which is a bit surprising. I think all the talks went well. There was two talks that mentioned OpenFeature pretty heavily that we didn't have anything to do with, that we didn't arrange. I just was skimming through one of them. It's the last one on the list here, and then there was another one that we were only mentioned very, very briefly. But yeah, this simplified inner and outer cloud native dev loops talks about OpenFeature and does a demo. Pretty cool. As well as the other two. The first one was by me, and then the last one was by Mike and Dan from Hotel. They were extremely well attended. Very cool, very successful. Lots of good questions on both. And overall, we had lots of really good feedback about the project, especially lots of interest in client side feature flags. And as the CNCF kind of invests more in software development lifecycle, I think our project is going to really be a good thing for them to talk about. So I think that's all really good. I guess those are the main highlights. Yeah, check out the blog. There's lots of recordings. And I'll skip the Python and come back to that because I think this is somewhat relevant. There was some. I'm going to go right to this next one: media and assets. for things like KubeCon, oftentimes people want to create slide decks, and maybe people want to use media. Maybe there's previous media like the stuff I was just mentioning. I'm wondering if it makes sense to put that in a repo somewhere, or maybe even put it on the website somewhere, so people have quick access to it. And I don't know if we want to break it up into like, here's some assets for creating slides and creating resources versus here's some stuff that's more like just general media, or we can group it all together. I don't know if you guys have any ideas around that, or any ideas where we want to host it, but I think it's going to be necessary. Like I know even Lucas, you're doing some presentations right now, or in the next few
Yeah.
days or something.
Yeah, totally. I'm going to start to prepare it like in the next weeks, and I would also like to look into some of that stuff. So I wouldn't do I wouldn't like to do it in code-centric like CI, but I wouldn't also like to create everything from scratch. So maybe it would be great if I have that.
Yeah, I was thinking about this for a while. I think putting it in the community repo would make the most sense, and then it's already getting pulled into the docs. So if we could put it there, and I'll probably just try to get something out there. So like not make it like worry too much about the styling, as long as it's not horribly ugly. And then we can just modify it later. So if people are okay with
Yeah.
that, I can try to get that knocked out.
Yeah, that would be great. Okay, yeah, community repo makes sense to me, and if that's being pulled into the website, it's kind of both in one step. I think that's a good idea. Especially
we should
because, you know,
link-
with the success of KubeCon and how well everything was received, I think maybe we can take advantage of some momentum and do more conferences and more talks and stuff like that, just to keep that going. And having easy assets for people is probably a good thing to do.
Yeah, I just actually also got the request from somebody who wants to do like an intro talk. I think we had something like very early on, but I think we should have something that people can easily reuse and share.
I'm doing David asked me to do like a webinar type thing that's I think is going to be like a feature flag 101. It's more, I'm not sure if it's going to be, I haven't figured it out yet, like what the content's going to be. So we'll find out together. But like I think it's going to be not necessarily super like it's not 100% going to be an intro to OpenFeature. It's going to be like an intro to feature flags, and then OpenFeature layered on top, so that we could look at like reusing that content as an option as well.
Yeah,
cool.
I think if we can just come up with a pattern, it's like anytime we have content that's could be shared or interesting to people, we could just throw it on there and it would just get consumed on the website then. So it's indexed and all that good stuff. So I'll take a first crack at it, but I'll probably not spend a huge amount of time styling it. It will just be getting data on screen basically, and we can make it look prettier later.
Yeah, you could post them kind of as blog posts, but it might actually be better as like in the tutorial or community section or something on the website that's longer lived.
Yeah, I like the community because we can reference it all over the place. I'll just have to think how to lay it out. I started looking at other projects, and yeah, a lot of them just take a pretty simple approach, so we can probably do something similar.
Okay, that brings me to my, unless there's any comments, that brings me to my last point, which was actually listed as my second, the Python 1.0. So I made a comment in the OpenFeature-Python channel, that because I think we're at a place where we can call this 1.0. It's at least at a point where we previously have 1.0 libraries, 1.0 libraries. There's some additional stuff we could do, specifically the in this milestone that I linked. There's the stateless providers, which could make things easier. However, it's also non-breaking. At least the implementation and it can be, it's possible to make it non-breaking. Transaction context, I also feel like that's bonus. It's something we can layer in for sure after 1.0. So I propose that we have like a more detailed conversation dedicated to this later. And especially involving Federico, who has a hard time making these meetings. He's been one of the primary contributors to the Python SDK. So I'll follow up with like a meeting time with that, but yeah, the TLDR is I'm feeling like we should do a Python 1.0. It at least doesn't seem unreasonable to me. I don't know if there's any other comments about that.
I mean, we had talked like the TCU is going to put together some kind of requirements for what that means. So maybe it's a good time to try to put that together, and then yeah, use this as the first guinea pig, I guess, on this.
Yeah, maybe we could have this meeting, and out of that, maybe we could expand the purpose a little bit to be not just about the Python SDK specifically, but about in general how we want to handle 1.0s going forward, and kind of tackle two birds with one stone. So I'll follow up with a meeting, talk about that. That's really all I had. Yeah, please take a look at any of the videos. For those that joined late, there's the two sessions that you might have already heard about by myself and then Dan and Mike from Hotel. But then the last one here is the last recording here is actually people who are new to me, new faces to me, but they did a great job talking about OpenFeature in the last part of the project demo at KubeCon. So it's a pretty cool presentation, and cool that somebody just came up with it on their own. Anyway, that's it for me.
All right. Looks like Andre.
Yeah, hello guys. So basically I've been contributing mostly to the .NET SDK for a while. So my biggest concern is in relation to what we've been discussing a couple of weeks ago, which is what should we address next? Should we go and bring all the breaking changes, meaning the async stuff, actually the PR that I'm working at the moment, which is the introduction of mandatory nullable checks and other bits and pieces, or should we focus entirely on the 0.8 spec? Because I honestly parked my work a little bit since that was the Contrib Fest, so to allow more people to get into the .NET. And now since we are back to business, let's say, I was thinking on starting back to .NET SDK and the contributions. But I honestly would want to get a better overview of what's the priority at this stage. Should we advance with breaking changes? And also there is a lot of pending PRs that has breaking changes that we should think of merging or postpone to get priority to 0.0. So what's the idea?
I think,
think
go ahead.
I think I'm not sure. I don't feel too strongly, which is I definitely want to do the breaking changes. I feel like, there's growing pains around some of the changes, and I think the API, the proposed changes that are breaking are definitely significant improvements and more idiomatic for .NET, just in terms of the naming, but also in terms of the features. So I definitely want to get those in. I don't really care whether or not they're done before 0.8 spec compliance. But I definitely want to get them done. So I don't know. There is a lot out there pending. And the reason that it's been pending for so long is because they're breaking and we haven't had an answer to this decision. So I don't know. I guess I don't feel strongly, but in absence of like direction, I think probably since we have a lot of pending work, doing a 2.0 sooner than later is probably easier because it means that we'll get rid of all those pending issues. That's my gut feeling. I don't know if you agree, Andre.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, I definitely agree. Like there is I like the repos, in a clean state, no pending PRs and so on, because pending PRs will lead to stale branches, and people that has then the stale branches then tend to be, oh, what it is, there is no movement, so get frustrated and leave. So I think even myself, I will try commit to be more faster in terms of reviews and so on. And also we should definitely merge those pending PRs, because again, can be a slight attrition point for people joining, because for example, if I go to I'm a contributor and I want to start contributing, if I see a repo with gazillions of PRs, I will like, oh, this is bad, so I'm not going to touch it. So I think we should definitely tackle, especially because the work is done. Is literally we just need to make a decision and say merge it. Let's go. So that's my opinion.
Yeah, as soon as we kind of open that floodgate, though, we can't have like that release pull request open too long. Like we'll have to make sure that we get it in a good enough state and then release it. Otherwise, we could really have some challenges. Like if we have bug reports come in or something on the old stuff, it'd be challenging. So, but
Yeah, without
okay.
maintaining 2 branches to publish from, which we could do if there's an absolute emergency, like a security risk. We could publish maybe that's what maybe this is what I'll do. I'm gonna create a 1.0 branch just in case. I won't do anything with it, but it'll basically be like the current state. And then we can backport things there in emergency situations. And just in case. And then maybe I'll block the current 1.5.1 release, which is pending. It just has a few dependency updates. And then we can start merging in the 2.0 changes. And then we'll release a 2.0. Basically, I'll change the 1.5.1 to a 2.0 release. But yeah, I think that will cover all our bases, and then we can merge all this pending work in. It'll be breaking, but it's fairly minor. It's just a few method name changes and some stuff that'll be awaitable, cancellation tokens, that kind of thing. So that's kind of what I propose as an action plan. I can start actioning that today if nobody objects.
We should definitely make sure in the release notes, at least we have like a migration guide as well. Like, or like how you, consume the changes. It shouldn't be a ton of work. It's just something we need to keep track of.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, thankfully, as part of the, actually, I'm stuck with a patch of the code coverage, but as part of the, what's the name? The nullables, which will be mandatory, there is no breaking changes to the customer. So basically, the only visible changes are for us, developers of the project, which means like it's more the nulls will be more visible to us. So if there is a, oh, you didn't check this for exception, it will raise an error instead of oh, it's fine, and then the customers have a null exception. So it's a PR that is there, but I need to get rid of that patch that is killing me, to be fair. So yeah, that's basically it. And I think we have a good plan and to pursue.
Cool. Sounds good.
All right, perfect. All right, there's a just a topic for OfferUp. I don't know who that one.
I added that. So just to get some, attention on things. So we have several pull requests open. So especially the Sticky country one, it's ready. It's not in a draft state anymore. I already have some approvals. So if you have some times, please have a look on that and approve or comment that so we can have the first version ready there. And then for the JS SDK contribs, so basically we have 2 pull requests in the draft state. I think Thomas and Lucas are working on them right now. And then from FlagD side, we already released the first version with the offer support. So it's live with the order 9.2 image version. So yeah, those are the updates on that side.
Yeah, I think on the GS side, we are almost ready. Like we're just like looking at things with Lucas and adding tests. But if you want to have a first look, I guess it's already in a state where you can start reviewing stuff.
Great. So I think the next step is to create the create issues for all the country repositories for the rest of the languages, and probably start working on the provider or get some contributions from the community on the provider implementation. So so that we are ready with the providers.
And I think after that, I'm gonna relaunch the conversation around the missing part of the off-rep part. So as we said in KubeCon, probably metadata and telemetry around the flag usage are the two main things that we wanted to look at. But yeah, that's probably something we need to start after these 3 first PR merge.
Yeah, and there's like also a minor that we've been missing. For example, the flag metadata is just an object in off-rep, but it is like a key value map in OpenFeature. Stuff like this would be like stuff we would have to look at. We found that when we were implementing the part of JS, because the types there were like correct and they didn't fit to what we defined in off-rep.
Perfect. Okay. And then just to let other people know real quick, we were talking about this at KubeCon. The Open Telemetry demo app has been like all that stuff's been merged in too. So as soon as this is in a better state, we'll try to migrate that over to use the system, which may mean that we could actually have pluggable like OFREP providers in place, which would be quite cool. So.
That's good.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks for the update, Kavindu. I put this as Mike/Pete, but since Pete's here, I'll hand it over to you. This is just kind of teasing the road mapping stuff.
Right. Yeah, so we talked about this in the in the governance call last week. I'm glad that we didn't decide to do it this week because I don't have a voice, or I have half a voice right now. So we just kicked off kind of like a new season of governance. So we've got new governance folks, and we were talking about various things. And one of the things that we want to do is kind of like set the roadmap for this year, and also kind of make sure that we've got a clear kind of vision for the project overall, for OpenFeature overall, like where do we want to go. So one of the things that we'd like to do is do kind of like a workshop with the community, where we kind of go through like what are our kind of like goals for the project, kind of like what do we want to get done this year. Roughly the format would be, kind of like what do we want to get done this year, like what does success look like for OpenFeature this year. And I think that's going to be very different for different people, but that's the point of these kind of things, is to kind of get it all out of people's brains. And then what does success look like in 3 years or 5 years, which kind of helps us kind of set the vision for OpenFeature overall. So the idea is we will do, I think we might refresh my memory. I think our plan was to use this time slot for that session, and have folks from the governance board, more folks from the governance board join, and from the TC as well, and all community people who want to participate. And we'll spend, we'll use probably all of the time. Like the plan is to use that hour slot to just kind of like do some kind of workshopy stuff, basically just get a bunch of people's ideas out there, try and kind of like do a little bit of initial kind of like consolidation, and try and spot like kind of like pull out what some themes are for what the community is looking at, what the governance board is looking at, what the technical committee is looking at, and then the governance board will take that away and do some kind of digesting and cogitating, and bring back to the community what we think is the kind of the roadmap for the next year, and hopefully also some kind of more visiony kind of long-term stuff. So that is the plan. Maybe I'll post in the Slack ahead of time with just a little bit of kind of like homework for people that feel like they want to do homework. Really, there's the only the homework is basically think about what I just said and think about what you would say. It's not going to be anything kind of super formal or complicated. It's just we'll probably use Miro, which is this kind of like remote kind of whiteboarding tool, and just do some kind of throw some stickies up on a virtual whiteboard, and then talk through them a little bit. So it should be pretty straightforward. We might not even use the full hour, depending on how much stuff we get and how much participation we get.
Yeah, perfect. Sounds good to me. And so, yeah, just to summarize that quickly. So the idea is next community meeting essentially would not be a normal community meeting. It would be this hopefully interactive session with Pete and
Definitely
Miro.
interactive.
So yeah, so yeah, definitely come with your mics unmuted. I think otherwise Pete will just be rambling. So,
Yeah, you don't.
no one
don't wanna
wants
listen.
that.
No one wants that. Yeah, and if anyone's got any questions about it, I mean, obviously ask now, but also feel free to ping me or Mike on Slack if you've got any kind of questions about how it's going to work.
Yeah. And Pete, if you could, as maybe an action item here, just post that in our Slack channel, just in the main thread, just like a summary of what we talked about here.
Yep.
And just get people thinking about it. And then we'll keep reminding throughout the next few weeks. So everyone hopefully is aware of what we're planning on doing.
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you. And hope you feel better. That's a bummer. It seems like that's been
okay.
going around a lot.
It just sounds more dramatic than it is. It actually doesn't, just like a little bit of a headache.
That's good. All right. Looks like Lucas has the next couple.
Yeah, so I basically have two smaller things. So the first one was something that came up before KubeCon. I guess it was when we were wanting to use fetch for nodes, because then we had to like drop support for node 16, which is end of life. And yeah, this opened the gate for like a larger discussion about deprecation and support of runtimes that are end of life in the by the vendors or by whomever they are created by. And I just wanted to tell if someone didn't see it. We brought it up in the TC, and it was brought up in the GC, and we were just talking about it, and we kind of came to the point that we do not want to support anything that is not supported by the vendor, or like whomever is creating that. And I guess Todd said that he wanted to draft something for that, if that's correct. Yeah, so just wanted to inform. I am not sure if anyone is here that didn't see it. So yeah, that's something we were just been discussing about. If someone has any opinion on that, yeah, just come.
Yeah, I mean the one challenge is like I think part of the appeal of OpenFeature is for like fairly large enterprises. They move painfully slow, especially with library upgrades and stuff. So we'll just want to keep that in mind. So like I agree that we don't necessarily need to bend over backwards for like completely obsolete runtimes or something, but intentionally breaking support for it too may not be what we want to do. So it's a balancing act. And I think having that documentation, like what what checklist basically we go through and what it means when we no longer support, node 16 becomes quite important. And I'm using node as just the example, of course, but it applies everywhere.
Yeah, that was.
Sorry, go ahead, Lucas.
No, I just wanted to say that this was the idea. This is why I was mentioning it, because someone maybe who didn't have been involved because not being part of TC or so. I guess every opinion on that is really valuable, because it's hard to decide and do really good. So yeah, maybe no, Ben.
Well, we already said we were going to schedule this meeting to talk about 1.0. Maybe we can dual purpose it, since they're kind of related technical issues, like create a 1 hour meeting. We'll try and make sure it's a time that works for Federico, because there's obviously the Python specific stuff, but also the TC. So, but I'm thinking it makes sense to expand this topic to both like deprecation and 1.0, since it's kind of related stuff. And then we can just do it all together, have a discussion on it. Does that make sense to everyone? Is that too much of an overload for one meeting, or does it kind of seem right? Okay, I'm seeing generally
Looks like,
positive.
yeah, it looks like Ben's got a comment, but I'm fine with it. It kind of like covers like the life and death of STK, so I guess it's appropriate. But yeah, over to you, Ben.
I'm just wondering, like, yeah, in the in the future, when everything's amazing and everyone's using OpenFeature, and yeah, like it's common for folk to, still be running on, I don't know, Node 14 or whatever, and I don't know, like, where we sit in terms of like, because there's different tiers of what's going on here, right? Like there's like, we've still got log4j in some old release that's got some horrendous zero, you know what I mean? Like where we sit on that. And I think it's more about like a version 2, or how, I feel like we don't need to answer the question yet, but I think we need to have a better idea of how we do in the future when we're like, okay, we're going to do a 2.0 for this or that, and like what are our obligations in terms of, I don't know, telling people like you can run this version of the Java SDK, but your application is probably going to get hacked because it's got a log4j dependency that's got a horrendous bug in it. Do you know what I mean? I don't.
Yeah, I
How
think that's
do OpenTelemetry must have this come up regularly?
Yeah, it actually apparently bit them. So that was one thing that we may want to try to learn from. Like they were saying, they always said like they had the 1.0 out there and they had like guarantees around that. And they're actually like trying to rework it now. So they can like remove runtimes that are no longer supported. I'll just use Node as an example, but they could remove Node 14 from like their official list at least. Without releasing a 2.0 or something, because then we're having like hundreds of major versions or something. So it's a weird challenge. Maybe we do try to align with them and come up with a very similar policy. Go ahead,
It is
Lucas.
tricky as well because different runtimes run at different cadences and have different LTS windows and things like that. Yeah, so like we've decided to sort of like be environment and language, sort of following that. But yeah, then like it's, I don't think you're ever going to satisfy everybody. But the thing that's top of mind for me is like, have like big flashing lights if there's like really, really, well-known vulnerabilities or bad vulnerabilities in dependencies or whatever.
Yep, that makes sense. I think maybe actually now that we talked through it, we should try to align a little closer with OTel too, and just like they either have something already documented that we could maybe just leverage, or just work with them to build it, because they have very similar targets and problems and everything else too. So, but yeah, sorry, go ahead, Lucas.
Yeah, maybe I wanted to go into that point that you said. So what I said when we initially discussed it was that I quite liked what OTel people did, because they have like one sentence in every SDK where they just tell you can use whatever runtime you want, but like for the example of Node, they are just telling everything that is still supported and not end of life is supported, and they even have like check marks for older versions, but they are just not guaranteeing that it works. And maybe we could go into some of that direction. So not intentionally breaking it, but at least not telling that we are supporting it from our side, because that may help us, for example, that we do not have to have a major upgrade or like a new major version if I don't know, Node goes EOL or so. That was something that I quite liked because it was pretty clear. It was like, yeah, you can do it, but you have to live with whatever it brings you. But still, we for everything that is not EOL, we guarantee support. So I quite like that.
Yeah, I think I just went through their Go and Java SDKs for Hotel, and for Go, they have a compatibility for the latest version, latest Go supported version. And for Java, it's like they do have support for Java 8, which is given. So it's more or less like the same for us. But for Go, which is my next point, so we have a pull request waiting for 1.2 to 1.20 update. So we might have to take a decision there and maybe state this in the SDK itself with supported compatibility versions and so on.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And then I guess to Lucas's point too, like at least in Node, because this is where like the conversation started, it was like if we update the minimum engine version in the package JSON, then it is kind of a like it's a sort of goes against what you had just mentioned. If we don't, and we basically just like drop test runners and say like this is a best effort, then it is covered more like what Hotel mentioned. And just saying like these things could work, but and we used to test them, but it's basically a best effort, and you should consider changing, like upgrading your runtime or something. So I think it maybe requires a slightly longer discussion. So maybe back to Todd's point, where we can just get together, go through it. Maybe homework could be reviewing what OTel does, and we formally document it. Probably reference that in every SDK README and move on. But I think we need it documented before we introduce any breaking changes like this, or we're not really doing any consumers favors essentially. Okay, you had one other topic. Do you want to move into that one then?
Yeah, that was the second one, Cloud Native demo on Playground. Yeah, as Todd said, I'm preparing like some material for our local meetup that we want to do about OpenFeature and feature flagging in general. And it was quite like I didn't want to use the older versions of all the software we are having. So I was like setting everything up, updating everything and so, and I was just wondering what is our focus on regarding the demos? Like, is the cloud native demo the demo we are doing, and also is the playground the demo we are doing and we want to have? Because, for example, we have Kubernetes in like both of them, and we have like Kubernetes manifests in the playground. We have them in the cloud native demo, and I would like to work on that, like to improve whatever I did, like update all the stuff, make everything use the latest software and so. But I'm just not sure where we want to head that. Like, is it still both? Is it like only the code in the playground and the deployment in the cloud native demo, or is it really? I'm not sure. I'm just like wondering what to do here.
Like my preference maybe is to start shying away from these ones if possible, and maybe start moving more towards the OTel demo. Just because it's like it's more technologies, it's definitely a more sophisticated demo, but because of the sophistication, it's harder to deploy too. So, yeah, I don't really have a strong preference, but like that was I was talking to Todd a little bit about that, and it may make sense, but yeah,
Wouldn't
just my thoughts there.
If we went into that direction, wouldn't it be hard to really show off like our USP, like our stuff that we are doing great? Or do you think it's still
I think we could do that in OTel, but that could be the other part too. So like maybe we take a look at it. Definitely like the playground would be the easiest way to, rapidly test things. So maybe I would start there if you're going to upgrade some stuff, and kind of the cloud native demo just consumes like the binaries and stuff of the playground. So I think that would be the best place to start. But I'd like to start thinking of what we could keep in the OTel demo and what we can, maybe start, you know, kind of shedding some of these repos and maintenance burden and leveraging other demo apps if possible.
Yeah, I understand that, but to be honest, my feeling is I really like the playground for showing off the features. I really love that, and I'm not sure if it's like good to have nothing really from the project. But I'm not sure. I'm not really sure how good we can integrate into the demo of OTel. Maybe it's better than I think, or it's like more than I think.
Yeah, and maybe that's more of a future state. So maybe I think for now the playground would be the place to focus, and then because I was talking to the OTel demo team and they had fairly ambitious ideas too. So that's
Okay.
probably more long term. I think it would be quite cool because we could really show off the microservices and how we can like pass context around and do all more complex use cases, but that's also not right away. So yeah, I guess maybe to answer your question, playground first, hotel demo later.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. Anything else on that one, or anyone else have an opinion?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how deep we can go into it, but it's a bit of an ownership issue and how much they want to implement. Because, like, for instance, one thing I would love to see, and I think is kind of important, is being able to change vendors dynamically, which the playground does very good. I don't know if they'd be up for doing that in the OTel demo. but I think it's kind of a key thing. Yeah, so I'm not sure about that.
Well,
Also,
that's
there's
maybe where the
ownership,
OFREP stuff comes in or something. So then it could be
maybe.
more dynamic. So yeah, that's certainly a big challenge for sure. So
Yeah, I guess if we are using OFREP, it can be like a DNS change somewhere that goes to your vendor or something like that. I don't know how.
basically, yeah, like environment variables, or it could be you change the little like proxy container or something like that. So yeah. Okay. I guess we can move on to the next topic. It looks like Kavindu is up next.
Yeah, I think it's related to the runtime support. So we already discussed that. So if you have an agreement, so we should have that in the documentation or in the landing page README, saying what sort of runtimes we support, and then we should go ahead with the upgrades where necessary. So for example, Go upgrade, if we agree to support the latest Go versions or supported Go versions, then should be already 1.21. We are already lagging behind there. So yeah. So if you have opinion, please feel free to look at the pull request, give an approval, and yeah, we can go with that.
Okay. Yeah, I would just recommend waiting to merge this until we get those official docs out.
Sure.
Okay, cool. And then I just had one last one. This come up a couple of times now, and we had kind of renewed interest since KubeCon. Is basically just working on the next version and moving like the OTel feature flag specification into like a more stable state. There's a few pieces that are missing. And like Ryan from the TC had reached out about some improvements they'd like to see as well. If you're interested in how it like basically comes together, that was basically what my session was about. And so there's a couple things that we can do to improve it, and then we can move it to a more stable state. And so I'm looking at, I already talked to the OTel team about this, and so really starting, I think they're calling it like a special interest group regarding this. We may kick that one off. And so it's kind of a teaser. There's nothing available yet, but if it's something that's interesting to you, I'll definitely mention it, and we can try to spin off the group to get that across the finish line. Andrew?
Yeah, actually, I have a question. I don't know if it was with you, Mike, or thought that I was chatting like ages ago when I was first doing the hotel things for .NET. So I noticed that there were some labels that were missing in the from feature flag that were missing in the hotel repo for the metrics and so on. I said, oh, perhaps I will do a PR, but I never had a chance to do it. So I think that might be also interesting. Since you mentioned the tidy up stuff, hotel, I think we should define, the feature flag. I think it was the standard labels, so that we can.
Yeah, it's part of the
literally
semantic
tidy up,
convention. Is
exactly that's the thing. Thank you
Yep.
for remember the name. Yeah.
Yep, no problem. Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. And we could actually probably include something in our spec and cross-link it. And like, I think there's opportunities to up level this a bit. And there's definitely some interest from some of the tools that I've been interacting with, and it becomes even better when it's included in like the OTel demo itself and stuff. So
Exactly.
yeah, I think we
Exactly.
have momentum. I'd like to kind of capture that, and we definitely it tends to be a little challenging to add things to OTel, but we have kind of that in now since we're in the demo app, and I talked directly to a couple of people on their governance committee. So I think as long as we don't wait too long, we can get some stuff in. So
okay.
uh,
Okay. I will take a look when I have this PR for the
no,
nullables.
okay, no problem. I think the way I was going to start it was basically add like a section to our spec that talks about it. And so maybe we could work together on what we want to include in there and kind of our goals and non-goals for for updating the semantics. So that's that was kind of a next step from my perspective, but I'll circle you in when we kick that off.
Yeah, it will be a nice effort because again, shows that we are visible to the outside world. If imagine anyone starts typing and oh, what is this feature flag stuff? Might be interesting. It's all part of discoverability.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, and I think there's a lot of opportunities too, a lot of different tools that can understand OTel semantics and stuff. So if we can spec this out, it becomes quite useful to a lot of people. Cool. That's it for the list then. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to add? Cool. One just real quick comment. OpenFeature had a nice mention in a recent Forrester report. I reached out to Chris and geez, and it I can't say his last name. I know it's easy to say, but I'm butchering it. So if anyone wants to say, anyways, the CTO of that, I reached out to him about that, and it looks like he's trying to get permission for us to be able to like share or see that report. So hopefully I can share it in a little bit. He just messaged me like a minute ago, so reading into that, and if I can get permission, I'll share it where I can.
Well, Mike, even just the pages with the mentioning, do you know what I mean? Like, fair enough, they don't want to give us the full beans, but just, you know, we might miss a bit of context, but just what they've said. Or if what that clip is all we've got, then maybe that's all we've got. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see. They're kind of weird about that because that's where they make money. If I guess that's not that weird, but it's also only like a 10-page report, so it's hard to say like you should go
Oh,
spend
okay.
five grand on this or something. But so I'll see what I can do here. I started the conversation and see what we're able to share and what we need to just tease, because I guess that's the other thing too. We can quote it apparently and say it exists, but we can't just share the full report without special permission. So looking into that now.
Jonathan, do you know how to pronounce Chris's last name?
It's
I believe it's
Anichek, I think.
Anesiac, I believe.
Oh, that's it. That's
I
way.
struggle with. I believe it's Anesiac. It's hard to pronounce. Yeah, for sure.
I should know it, but yeah, I'm looking at it and it
I
looks
should know it even more, but yeah.
Oh. All right. At any rate, so hopefully I can follow up with that later, but it's kind of cool. It was neat to see when I was looking through the report. All right. Anything else? Perfect. All right. Well, thanks for your time, and we'll talk to everyone later. See ya.
Thanks.
So-
See you.